Layton Christian Academy head coach Casey Stanley comes by to talk about his background in coaching and why he's so excited to be a high school coach right here in Utah. Let's check it out. This is the Utah High School Hoops Podcast, your source for sometimes informative, but always entertaining coverage of the Utah high school hoop scene. With your host, Adam Peak. Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am joined today for my first interview. This is my first basketball interview. Coach Casey Stanley. Did you know this?
The previous three people canceled. Is that what happened?
You're the first one who said yes, is what I'm trying to say. I mean, to say that I was like, this is my first choice, but you were just like, you made me feel guilty on Twitter. And I was like, well, I got to make it right.
That's how I got my wife as well. The same exact way I made her feel guilty on social media. And here I am, married with a child. So
yeah, congratulations too. That's great.
No, thank you. We just successfully put her to bed. It's a 2-man operation these days. She's just getting over a cold. So one of us holds her down, and the other one gives her children's Tylenol. So that's pretty much what we do.
Man, listen. Having done it was a bit of a blur for me. Like, my wife will ask me questions about, like, oh, you remember when pick one of our 5 children was this age? I'm like, it was just all like it just happened. It's been crazy. I don't have like all the specific memories, but it feels like time goes slow and then it speeds up. That's about how I felt. But we could turn this into a parenting podcast. We're going to talk about Utah high school basketball. And we are 2 people pretty new to this state. I mean, relatively speaking, right? So I've been here for 5 years, but, a few of those were COVID, so those didn't count. You've been here for how long now? 6 months?
6 months. That sounds about right.
Okay.
And not only am I new to Utah, I'm new to high school in general. We do some of these fall league games, and I'm asking the refs like questions, and they think I'm being a smart aleck, but I'm honestly asking. I'm like, hey, how does this work in high school? I'm asking as we go.
Yeah, so that's a great point. Let's start there. I mean, your background is pretty cool. It's pretty fun. I'm sure there's some really great stories. But so first of all, this is Coach Casey Stanley. He's the head basketball coach at Layton Christian Academy up in Layton, Utah. I think, right? That's not just a
you got it
name. Brand new here, but you don't come up through the high school ranks. You didn't, come up through like an AA youth situation. You're a college coach that has settled here into lovely Utah. So why don't you give us a quick introduction on your background?
Yeah, I have 15 years of college coaching experience, multiple different states, multiple different situations. I can go through all of them if you want, but I have to do it in order, because if I skip around, I start forgetting entire states that I've lived.
Yeah, I think we should do it, because I think there's a lot of people who really glamorize college coaching. Like, if I could just coach in college, but when you kind of list these out, like, you got to be ready. It's like a military schedule. Like, you're moving all the time.
There was a streak, I think, where it was like 3 or 4 years. I lived in a different state every year, different job. Obviously, when you're a college coach, you pretty much work 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's a lot. So, it's not, you hear some of these states and some of these cities and you think, okay, well, that sounds like a great place to live, but you're spending most of that time in an office or in a gym someplace. It's not everything it's cracked up to be. I was at Iona. I was a student manager my senior year. Kevin Willard, who was an assistant coach for Rick Pitino at Louisville, gets the Iona job. So I end up basically convincing him to hire me full-time. Basically, I volunteered my senior year with the promise that, or really the hope that he would hire me at the end of it, which he did. So I worked 2 years for Kevin Willard at Iona. We ended up being pretty successful and winning, and he was able to get the Seton Hall job. So I went with him to Seton Hall. I was at Seton Hall for 1 year. Just through the Kevin Willard coaching tree, I became friendly with a lot of people at Louisville. So I get a call.
Sorry, I got to interrupt you. It's pronounced Louisville. I believe
No, that's it. That's actually incorrect.
Louisville.
By the way, they're just so you know, they're losing an exhibition game right now. So I have it on in the background.
We don't need to talk about their season last year either.
Yeah, yeah.
And as a Colorado kid, we pronounce it Louisville because there's a Louisville, Colorado, and that's how Americans pronounce it. We're not French. Anyway, okay. So sorry to interrupt you there. I had
no, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, that's crazy. They're losing an exhibition game.
So I get a call from Richard Pitino, who said, "Listen, we have an opening on staff. I'm helping my father fill it, and we'd like to talk about it." So I get involved in that situation, and I end up getting hired and going to Louisville. I'm there for like 8 months, and we go to a Final Four. At the end of that, Richard Pitino gets a head coaching job at Florida International in Miami, his first coaching job, and he offers me a spot to come along with him. So, I'm 25 years old, and I get offered a chance to be a Division I assistant coach, and I got to take it, right?
Miami,
yeah. No question. So I go down to FIU, and
did you say you were taking your talents to South Beach? Like, did you make an announcement?
No, because that'd be a little bit played out. I mean, I don't want to do that. No one but you would have found that funny. So I
would have laughed had I known you.
So I go down there, and we took over for Isaiah Thomas at FIU. So actually, probably you asked for funny stories. Probably all my funny stories are Isaiah Thomas stories when I wasn't even there. So we're there for 1 year. They had won like 5 games the year before, and we win 18 and go to the conference championship. And we end up getting a job at the University of Minnesota. He replaces Tubby Smith, and I go with him. So I'm there for a year. And when I'm there for a year, I get a call from Kevin Keats, who I was on staff with at Louisville, and he gets a job at North Carolina Wilmington. So he offers me a spot there. I accept it. I spend 3 years at the University of North Carolina Wilmington. We win 3 regular season titles. We go to 2 NCAA tournaments. We win tremendously. And then I get offered a job at Arkansas State University. So I take that job. The biggest positive from Arkansas State University is I met my wife there. I say I rescued her from Arkansas. It was a humanitarian effort. So I bring her out of Arkansas, and at the end of 3 years at Arkansas State, really 2 days into COVID, I get a call that Rick Pitino is taking the job at Iona, my alma mater.
Right.
So, I mean, the chance to go work for a Hall of Fame coach at my alma mater was a no-brainer. Now, it was 2 days into COVID in the epicenter, the busiest place of COVID, but it was something that we did. So we did that for 2 years. And, my wife and I were pregnant. And so we decided the opening came up at Arkansas State again, which is where my wife is from. So we decided to take it because, honestly, we wanted help from our family and support from our family during birth and that whole process.
Yeah.
I think, ultimately, I think I, at that point, was ready for a move, ready for a chance at raising a family. I kind of always wanted to kind of get out of college coaching at a certain point there. And after a year, I was afforded that opportunity at Layton Christian, and that brings me out of Utah.
That's amazing. I mean, I hope, if you're listening, you're following along with that, right? I mean, you made a lot of moving companies very happy, right? Just like dotting around the map. And now you're here in Utah. So what was it about going into high school from college? Like, was it just too much of a grind that you felt like, because you got to be out recruiting, right? You got to be out, and it's not just recruiting anymore. I mean, not that you were only ever recruiting high school, but now with the transfer portals, like you got to know kids D1 to JUCO to high school. Like I got to believe there's a lot of pressure right now on assistants in college to get it right, because kids can move now.
Well,
so getting on that grind.
Yeah. So college coaching used to be September to March. You're working 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, sometimes more, traveling. But then usually kind of in April, May, and June, it would slow down. And then it would pick up again in July. Now with the transfer portal, it's a 12-month a year grind. You have no time for family. You have no time, to sit down roots or do any of that stuff. And that's not something I wanted to do. I wanted to be present, for my family, for my wife, for my daughter. Those were things that were all very important to me. I could always get a 9-to-5 job, but it's just, I love basketball. So, high school in my mind was a perfect landing spot. Now, I didn't know if I could find a high school job that was as committed to me and my family in a great situation like I did. And that's honestly what brought me to Utah. It was also a great place to raise a family. When you sit there and you think about great places to live, and an adventure, and basically this checked all the boxes for us.
No doubt. I think Forbes just came out with something that said Utah was like the happiest state or something like that in the U.S. And we felt that. I haven't lived nearly as many places as you have, but we're from Colorado. We lived in San Diego, moved back to Colorado, and then came to Salt Lake 5 years ago. And I mean, I work in Minneapolis, like my full-time job. I am on the road a lot, but I want to live, like I want my kids to be raised here. I want them to grow up here. And what's funny is even, this is a whole other rabbit trail that we're not going to go down, but like we have a very eclectic, like multicultural friend group in Salt Lake City, which people don't realize who are outside of the state, just how diverse the city of Salt Lake City is. So it's been awesome for us. And I'm glad you guys got here. So I want to talk, I'd be curious to know a little bit about then. So you have this college experience and you're bringing it to not only high school basketball, but high school basketball here in Utah. What are some things that, as sort of an outsider, that you say to, kids like Tyron, right? Like you got Tyron, he's a tremendous kid. I got to know him a lot this past AAU season. Kids who have like these ambitions, like what are you telling them as somebody who has that perspective that a lot of people don't, about like, the work and the effort and like things you got to do? I'd really be curious to get your perspective on that.
Honestly, it sounds like a cliche, but they don't understand the daily grind that goes into it. Tyron Jones is a tremendous athlete, tremendous basketball player, tremendous young man. But it's just, this is a thing that consumes your life if you're going to make it to that level. That's not something that you can just, kind of luck into or happen into. This has to be a conscious decision. You have to get up consciously every day and work. We touched on the transfer portal, but that just has added a whole new element to it, where conceivably there are only 450 high school kids who will go Division I in that class, in that 2025 class. So if that's truly your goal, just being a good athlete and having good size isn't going to be enough. You have to be totally committed to all of your skills. You have to be totally committed to knowing how to play, and you have to be right place, right time. Utah traditionally is a state that is pretty tough to be recruited out of. So you have to align yourself with people that are going to help you get to that level if that's your dream. Yeah,
that's tremendous. I mean, I think it's great advice, right? Like, I think there's a lot of the talk that I hear, and I'm nobody, right? Like I'm not a coach. I'm just a guy that's hosted a podcast who has gotten into basketball here. And I love the game. Trust, like I love basketball, but I never got as invested as you did. But just like hearing and kind of like even just doing like basic math that you did, right? It's like, hey, there's 400 to 450 kids. Now they got this new legislation that passed about like, scholarships, and you have to honor scholarships. And it's like, the recruiting process just got way harder if you're a high school kid than it did, even probably 4 or 5 years ago with COVID years and all that stuff. So, being able to stand out isn't just like, are you really good as a player from Utah? It's like, what can you do to, kind of maximize your talent and put in that work? And,
it's so hard. I don't want to sound like an old man when I say this, but I am getting up there in age. But they're surrounded by so many people that tell them what they want to hear and tell them, oh, you're league bound and you're a pro, and but they don't understand what that takes to get there. Step one is being the best player in your region. do that. Like that's step one. Like,
Right.
and then there are a million other steps after that. You know, and it's as good of a basketball state as Utah is. And now that I'm in it, now that I'm entrenched in it, I see it as tremendous. It's very hard to go out and reach your dreams and reach your goals. And, you know, it's something that takes being consumed by it, like anything. But it's like anything. Like, you know, if you want to be successful at anything you do, you need to be consumed by it. You need to work for it. You know, and you know, a lot of kids have dreams, but don't understand what it takes to get there necessarily.
Yeah. It's been fun because I've been able to apply a lot of the stuff I've learned in my professional career just in helping some of these kids kind of grow. It's like, you know, it's the same basic principles, whether it's basketball or it's, you know, in my case, like I run a sales team, or if you want to run a podcast, or if you want to be an influencer on, so like whatever you want to be a musician, like it is daily boring work is the only way to get there. Right. I mean, sure, people luck out occasionally, but like, that's not there's no process there. It's like you have to do the boring work each and every day. And it's okay, especially with basketball. I feel like saying like, it's okay if you don't become a Division I basketball player. Like there's no shame in being a varsity basketball player.
100%. And or going Division III or NAIA or junior college, or, you know, it's people have all kinds of different paths. You know, yeah. and I think some of the problems sometimes with youth basketball players is that they identify themselves just as a youth basketball player and think like, okay, now I got to do the next step and I got to do the next step. And then when it ends, because the ball finishes bouncing for everybody at all different times, but for everybody. So what are you able to do once that ball finishes bouncing? And again, not to sound like a cliche, but the hard work it takes to achieve a basketball dream, in essence, you know, you're kind of teaching them life skills. You're teaching them the importance of hard work and dedication, and things aren't always going to be easy. You know, and I think for the first time in my, like, I'm getting the age with these high school kids where they're seeing the first time this is not coming super easy to them. And I think that's important to them and how they handle it, because that's what they learn for life.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's talk a little bit there. It's a good transition point to this upcoming season. So it's your first season, obviously, at LCA. You know, they've had, I believe they've had a pretty long, or at least recent memory. They've had some really good teams there, some good kids, some good players. What are you looking forward to in this coming season? I don't even know. Do you play in, like, is it 5A, 4A? What?
We're 4A.
You're 4A, okay.
4A Region 8. I am taking over for Bobby Porter, who is a living legend in the state of Utah. He won 5 state titles. He's pretty much been there since the inception, you know, of Layton Christian. You know, I think about 22 years he ended up coaching. But first they were 1A, then they were 2A, then they were 3A. They won all those state titles. And their goal is to keep climbing the ladder. The goal is to win state titles in every classification. So they've accomplished the first 3. There's 3 left to go. And, you know, Bobby did such a tremendous job. And it's such a unique situation because as the school is currently constructed, it's mostly international kids. I'd say 400 students, let's say 300 of them are international. Well, every year, these kids come to America wanting, number one, an opportunity to go to American high school to get American education. But they want to play American high school sports like they've seen in the movies. You know, so it's where there are some schools in Utah, I understand that a group of guys play together from 7th grade to 8th grade to 9th grade and just come up through the ranks and play together, same system, under the same coaching tree, in essence. Every year, Layton Christian, you know, I have 13 new players this year. Every year, Layton Christian gets a new group of kids, and they try to make it work. And traditionally, I mean, Bobby was a tremendous coach, but if you look at the way things went, he would start slowly as he meshed, you know, a group of kids together. But then by the end of the year, that's usually when he made his run. So It's all a new experience for me, and I'm excited and tremendously fortunate. And a couple things. Number one, it's so amazing to get the opportunity to take over a program with as much history and tradition as Layton Christian. But, also the fact that Bobby Porter has been so instrumental in helping me, words of wisdom along the way, and making this transition as easy for me as possible, because, a lot of guys in his situation could have been jealous or territorial and said, hey, listen, I'm not going to tell, this young guy, what helped me be successful, because I want, the state titles, I want the records. But, he feels great love for this place, and he wants to see it continue to succeed. And he's been, an open book during this process.
I love it. And someone somewhere is listening to this going, does this guy not know who Bobby Porter is? And I will warn everybody, I said on the very first episode what this is not. And I am not a Utah high school basketball historian. So thank you for educating me on the history of LCA basketball. I mean, I knew they were really good. I knew they had a coach for a long time. I couldn't recall his name. So I apologize. Thank you. That's
well,
great.
No, and honestly, obviously I'm new to Utah as well, but you walk the halls of LCA, you see his picture everywhere. So you can't help but glean a little bit of information and knowledge. And, obviously, the school is founded by the Crowder family and Pastor Crowder specifically, but, Bobby Porter was instrumental, every step along the way, and the school wouldn't be where it was without him.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I'm excited to to follow LCA this year. I've got you guys locked in on, was it Maxpreps? I got the Maxpreps app. If Maxpreps wants to sponsor this podcast,
I was just about to say, are they a sponsor?
I will shout them out at every turn. But I'm stoked to follow. It was great to meet you. We got to grab some coffee together, and you were like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "I don't know. I was new to Utah once, and I like basketball." And you're like, "Really?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah, sure." We'll just.
Well, so I'm a native New Yorker, so I question anyone who's being nice, and I try to figure out people's motives along the way. And I very instantaneously realized that your motive was for me to help host a podcast with you one day. So if this is you offering me a spot as your full-time host, I'll take it.
Anytime you're like, hey, we got to get, I mean, I want to have kids. Like, I think it's a great opportunity for kids to learn how to talk and how to be interviewed and how to talk with adults. And, cause like, I would love to have, kids like Tyron on. Like, why not? Why can't we talk? Why can't we talk with them and let them share a little bit and, help them understand what it's like to sit down and talk with an adult. I mean, I think that's another life skill that I think kids these days, we are so old. I heard Nate Bargatze said, I heard him say, I'm from the 1900s. That's
it's true.
From another decade.
More importantly, next time I hop on into your podcast, I'm gonna get a better background. I think I got like asbestos or something in this basement, and you're in a full scale studio.
With my Nuggets championship banner.
I can see that in the background.
Yeah. Just so everyone knows who the NBA champions are at the time of this podcast recording. Yeah. Well, Casey, we didn't even get any funny stories.
What funny story? I don't have any funny stories.
No, you teased it with Isaiah Thomas, but we don't. Next time we'll have plenty of opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I don't know how many guests you're gonna end up getting on the show. I think it's gonna be
wow.
Yeah, I just think it's gonna be a rotation of me and what's Sanja. He'll hop on.
Yeah, you and that's gonna be it.
That's it. We'll just rotate back and forth. Well, I'll take even weeks. He'll take odd weeks, and we'll just.
I gotta throw in like Tuesdays with Tim Drisdom, so we gotta have him on. No, I mean I've actually got quite a few people who reached out.
I'm sorry. Did I touch a nerve? I apologize.
I'm really mad. Now you're gonna bring out the New Yorker and me. I'm gonna no. I honestly have zero end game with this whole podcast. I found like when I started my packaging one and people like kind of made fun of me, they were like, why would you have a packaging podcast? And then 5 years later, it's listened to all over the world. Like I get speaking it's been incredible. I didn't set out to do that. It's just, I found that podcasts are great when they are very focused and very niche, because then you get like a group of people. Like I love like Denver Nuggets podcasts, right? There's a small group of people who just really love to nerd out about the Denver Nuggets. And that's kind of what podcasts are for. If you just wanted a general sports podcast, like there's plenty of those out there, right? But why not have something in this format that we can talk to people like yourself and you know, and Tim and Sanyan, and that's it. Just the four of us.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah,
I got to very excitedly tell my wife, like, hey, you know, I got to go downstairs after we put our daughter to bed because, you know, I'm on a podcast. And I tried to throw it out there trying to get her to take the bait, but she was not interested. She is.
No.
I'm fairly certain she won't even listen to this. I hate to break it to you.
Oh, that's totally fine. I pay my mom plenty of money to like VPN in from all over the world. So I get like, you know, 10 downloads. It's going to be fantastic.
It'd be great.
Well, hey man, thanks again. Appreciate you coming on from the basement of Casa de Stanley, and looking forward to following you guys and having you come back on and whatever. What do we say? 4 weeks? The rotational will begin.
Yeah, rotation. Yeah, exactly. I think 4 weeks. I should hop back on.
Okay, sounds great. All right, we'll see you. Thanks again.